welcome to the fourth Talent Attraction channel with the fabulous people Guy Franklin and Katrina Staunton, who are going to discuss attracting tech talent today. So thanks for joining us. A couple of housekeeping bits to start with, as I always do before you guys introduce themselves. Hashtag for this, if you're doing any Twitter chatting around this, is hashtag. That's not a hashtag, that's a forward slash, isn't it? Hashtag TAChannel. So if you're doing any of that kind of stuff, by all means do that. It's interactive, so please, if you're watching and you want to ask a question or throw a comment in or add a pearl of wisdom, because I know we've got some very clever people signed up to watch this today. Please put the questions and things on the bar on the right hand side there. You'll see a little box that says "Say something nice." So say something nice in there. There is a bit down the bottom about questions and answers. I'd rather you use the bit on the right hand side because I forget to look at the one down there. So if you put it in the bit on the side, we'll answer those as they come through, basically. So that's the basic stuff from a point of view of housekeeping. By all means, ask questions. Thank you to Candidate ID over my shoulder here. Candidate ID sponsor this webinar. Candidate ID is the world's first talent pipeline software. Super cool piece of kit that I'm ambassador for, just to make that point clear. But they are the future of talent pipelining and just awesome bit of tech. Have a look. And also, if you get a chance, download Adam Gordon's brilliant talent pipeline playbook. Ask me for it afterwards if you want a copy of that. It is remarkably brilliant bit of content. Thought I'd throw that in there as well. Right, Candidate ID have got their worth out of me, that's for sure. So, and Tim Davies says, hi Kat, say hello to Aaron Neal for me. There you go, got a friend. Okay, so look, guys, introduce yourself. If Kat, do you want to introduce yourself, give yourself a little bit of a potted history of you and what you do now and what your challenges with regard to tech talent hiring are and what's ahead of you, basically.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Katrina, or Kat for short. I've been here at Improbable just for 2 months, heading up the talent team. Previous to here, I was down in Sydney, Australia, working for Atlassian, who are an Australian software company. So I had some interesting growth problems there. Prior to that, then spent 8 years at Google, both here in EMEA and down in Sydney, with a few stints in the US as well. So growth-wise, we're at an interesting point in our life cycle. We're about 190 people. We just received a large round of funding, which we were all really happy about, but it's put us in this stage now where we are really thinking our long-term strategy and really kind of stopping and making sure that our mission is, I guess, as lofty as the funding, which it definitely is. So headcount-wise, we're definitely going to be growing fast over the next 12 months. Still kind of TBD on the exact number, but I would absolutely forecast that we'll likely double here in London and probably expand our office in San Francisco too. So no exact numbers today, but we know it's going to be big, and we're for that now, doing what we can while it's slightly quieter to get ready for it.
Brilliant. And in the meantime, with all that funding, the drinks are on you. Definitely. Guy, please the same. Introduce yourself, please.
Absolutely. So, Guy Franklin.
Recruiting animal on the right side says you look angry.
No, just listening to the introduction there. So yeah, Guy Franklin. I am at Dyson. I look after our connected technologies and software hiring globally. Been here about 8 to 9 months. Prior to that, I was at American software company SAS for about 4 years, helping them grow their business globally. And prior to that, various roles, both in-house and on the agency side. So it's a good mixture. From a Dyson perspective, where have we been? I think, over the last 8 to 12 months, we've been on the proverbial journey from zero in terms of our software/development capability to 100% in terms of our interest and desire to move in that direction. And therefore, we're looking to have been growing quite substantially. In fact, we needed to have doubled the size of our development team in-house here in the UK and Singapore, and now moving forward for the next 12 months, looking at Shanghai in terms of growth hub, and also San Francisco. So some different challenges moving forward to the challenges that I've had over the last 8-9 months or so.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. That's excellent. And we'll hear a little bit about some of the work you guys have been doing for the various companies you work, particularly a little bit on Dyson's smart stuff as well in regards to trying to find tech people out in the sticks. Good luck. So look, why is recruiting tech people so different? I mean, obviously, it's the most in-demand talent area, or the most competitively demanding talent attraction area right now. Why is it different from other areas of the business that you have to recruit for? Why do you have to treat it so differently, and how do you treat it? What kicks off with that, Kat?
Yeah, I mean, they say that software is eating the world, but I absolutely think it's true. Every company is becoming a software company. So Dyson, Kodak, or any of the companies that traditionally were in software either have become software companies or have died. So it's very much the way the world is going. But unfortunately, the demand for the talent is larger than the supply. So we just can't produce grads at the rate at which we need them in the industry. So the industry is hotting up, but the grad levels aren't really increasing at the same rate. So, talk about the war for talent. It's very much alive and well in the tech industry, and I don't see it going away anytime soon. So it means us really just need to be extra creative in order to really fight for and win the best tech talent out there. Yeah,
absolutely. What and Guy, why are these people different? Because of this uber competitive landscape for it, it means obviously the love of tech people's love of recruitment people is not great. The relationship between talent people and developers and the like is not great. What do we do to treat them differently? What do we got to think about when we're approaching tech talent?
So I think the key for me has been over the last 8-9 months, the recruitment team absolutely opening the discussion, but very quickly getting out of the way and letting the hiring community access the candidate, far quicker and sooner in the process than perhaps is otherwise traditional. So that, the candidates have, a very real exposure to those type of people far quicker. It's more credible. They get to play with the tech. They get into the interesting discussions more quickly, I think, and that's a great hook. So less is definitely more when it comes to recruiters being involved in the process, in my view.
Yeah, absolutely. And how can you do that? I mean, Kat, do you look at that about how do you put the people in your organization, like those people who are the like-minded people in the organization, do you put those guys kind of center and front in some of the ways that you go about hiring for these people? Because they kind of know each other really well. They're on the same page and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think acknowledging that, we all think the companies that we work for are the best companies in the world.
Yeah.
So I think acknowledging that, this tech talent have, pretty much all of the options in the world when you go after the really top folks there. And so, they have this plethora of options. You really need to think about how you differentiate yourself and how you're going to win them over when their inboxes are cluttered with emails. So we absolutely, try to bring in our teams, and it's easier for an engineer to tell an engineer what the job is like than a recruiter. I'm really proud of our recruiting team. They're all pretty technical themselves and really kind of versed in speaking about technology with candidates. But we make sure that our engineers and our team are involved throughout the interview process, but also even before we engage a candidate, we'll often have them, send an email or get in touch or meet someone at a meetup to kind of help us with that initial in, I guess. Because once you have the in, it's a little bit easier, but it's very hard to kind of cut through the clutter of an inbox where, it's emails that look.
I think, and this is the thing. I mean, I know when we were talking about this earlier, it's a lot of it's about cutting through noise and all that kind of stuff. And there is a lot of noise in that kind of area. Or on that note, Audra asks quite a good question on the right-hand side there about, does content play a part in this? What kind of content do you create to do that? And it's social. I mean, Audra mentioned social media, but is that the place? So two questions there really, but one is what kind of content and stories hit these people effectively? But secondly, where?
So I think from a content perspective, what stories resonate, I think it's about the type of tech that these guys are going to be and girls are going to be playing with and working on. It's the closest to the product as well. That they're the end product, and at Dyson we're lucky that they'll be working on the product and it will be running around the floors, but beneath us by itself, and if they're working on the robot. So it's those type of stories. It's the day in the life stuff, which you can do in video, of course, and you can do on profiles. That tends to resonate. You need to be careful, I think, where you put that. Putting that in the right sort of places, be that Stack Overflow or GitHub, but again, not being posted by the recruiter, by the recruitment team. This needs to come organically from within your hiring community, within your development community, within your tech teams ultimately, and try and push it out that way. Otherwise, again, it's just another recruiter pushing a message. Whereas if it's a hiring manager, there's that credibility, and there's tech people talking with tech people ultimately. Yeah,
and so when somebody like Audra says something like social media, general social media, broad stream social media, it, probably not necessarily the ideal route for these kind of guys in some respects. Is that where they?
Not ideally, no. I think
areas, the private areas, dark social, effectively. That's
exactly.
Yeah, indeed. Can everybody see Kat all right? I can't, so...
No, I lost her.
No, are you there, Kat? You're there, but I think it just happens sometimes with yours, doesn't it? But hopefully everybody else can... sorry, a guy... when I say guys, Audra, I mean guys and girls. It's a generic term, but I realise that's people. People. But, Martin can see you. I can see Kat now. Good. So definitely, I mean, that one thing I absolutely get. And the day in the life thing, because I'm going through a bit of a thing with the company I'm doing a project for at the moment about we're trying to find what the right content is for these kind of people. And what was very interesting is that, the end product, the tech guys care less about. The company I'm doing some work for at the moment do this amazing data, consumer behavior, data analysis and predictive analytics kind of stuff. And it's for major retail organizations and things like that. So all their targeted stuff is directly right. Now it looks amazing. All that stuff to me looks fantastic as a consumer, but for the tech guys, they're not excited by that kind of stuff at all. They're not excited by the end result. What's the things that what gets tech people excited, Kat? What's the things that make them go, shit, yeah, I want to work for that company because of? What are the things that they tend to go for? Yeah,
I think, there's some really useful information on things like LinkedIn and Stack Overflow, where they can actually do very kind of specific talent pool analysis based on who you're going after. And, tech is obviously a very broad term. You've got people who love the front end design of a product, and then people who are much more interested in the back end or infrastructure side of things. But for us, I think we generally see that the talent that we want to attract want to work on a very difficult problem. They want challenging work that really excites them. We're looking that, the technology we're building hasn't been built before. So it's genuinely interesting for them to come in and try to solve it. But we're also seeing a lot of, interest or, requirements around kind of flexible working, and work-life balance comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Also kind of the impact on the world. I think, it's almost bragging rights, but, people want to really make sure that if you're not going to be an entrepreneur, that they're working for a company that really is going to make a difference in the world. And I think that's something that's interesting.
Yeah. I the guys I was talking to, I mean, all they really, frankly, kind of cared about in the company I'm doing work for, when I went around the tech team, the different components of the tech team, was the quality of the tech. The quality of the stack that they were working with was so crucial to those guys, because they regarded that largely as being the differentiator between the companies they'd worked at before versus the company they were now working for, was the fact that he said, if you tell them about this tech the way we know it to be, they'll love to work here because they're working on light and agile kind of gear. And that's the stuff that, I guess in my background, I'd never really kind of looked at the tools in the same kind of way, but they regard that as massively important. Do you find that's pretty much the case with those guys as well then? Yeah,
I should add colleagues as well. Working with really smart people who kind of align to their values is right up there at the top too. And generally when we make offers, people talk about the people who they met at the interview process, and that being a big factor for them saying yes.
Of course, yeah, it makes lots of sense. And thinking about one thing, let's deal with when we think about marketing content for tech companies and tech teams, we've really hopefully have gone past the days of it all being about pizza, football tables, beanbags and slides. I mean, I just remember watching a thing 2 years ago, a little startup networking recruitment event where I think the company called themselves a fampany rather than a company, because it was a family inside a company, and it was just awful. It was just cheesy, and they were all taking pictures of themselves blowing bubbles together and doing all this kind of stuff. And given all the things we just talked about what really drives tech people towards a tech organization and a tech team, it's much more substance than that, isn't it? All that kind of peripheral stuff, but great stuff when you're there. I mean, it's a lot of fun when you're there. That they're not deciding factors, are they, in tech people joining a company for any reason? Slides and beanbags, that's not it, is it?
I think they're peripherals. You say that's the facade, and if you want to go and work at Google and have the slide, no offense, Kat, then fantastic. I think as Kat's rightly said, it's about the working on the leading edge tech. Am I going to be working on Node.js? Am I going to be working in C#? And it's getting down to those sorts of discussions, solving technical problems which either haven't been attempted before at all, and therefore it's absolutely bleeding edge. That they want to know about that. Being recognized by peers and working with smart peers who they will learn from and develop as well. All of those things for us have drawn people in. I think the other wrap I would add around this is that it's all very well having all this, but what you also need to do, and what we found quite early on, was that you have to wrap it up in a very robust process which operates at pace.
Right.
Because if you don't operate at pace, you will lose these people. As Kat said, you've got everybody. We're playing in a field which ranges from Google and Facebook, right the way across the landscape. Through Ocado, Waitrose, through Sainsbury's. Every company is a tech company now, and hence the war for talent is absolutely red hot in our space. So having that process, I think, is being robust, but also able to execute at pace is a must. Otherwise, you just will not be securing the people that you want, regardless of how many slides, beanbags and pizzas you offer them. Yeah,
no, great. Recruit on the other side says pizza's supposed to be cheesy. I think that's what I think you're playing on the cones. Apart from my lad yesterday, I went to an Italian restaurant with my lads yesterday for Father's Day, and my lad doesn't like cheese, so he asked for a pizza without cheese. So wrong, animal. Wrong. You can have pizza without cheese. Let me just check what Jacob's asking. Does Guy and Kat and others check when with hired talent what it is that really entice them, and does this info form the basis for further? I guess we kind of covered that in a way, but I mean, looking at existing talent in the organization and why they joined, is that a crucial part of traction strategy?
Yeah. So very quickly, we sit down with every single new starter within the first 6 weeks and do a bit of a debrief with them around the process, so we can identify any problems, faults, and room for improvement, I guess, ultimately, and how they're finding it as well. So a bit of a check-in. And rightly so, this is all about networks as well. So starting to look at their networks and tap in from that perspective. So we very carefully monitor that data and adjust when necessary.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I like to do it in interview training as well. So when you're actually getting interviewers trained on how best, not just assess, but also kind of sell the company and the opportunity. Yeah. I think it's a good time to get them to brainstorm and, why would a candidate choose us over, our biggest competitor? Yeah, or why would they choose your team over that team? Like, what's sexy about us? And actually getting everyone to really brainstorm, because again, they've already chosen to work here, so they're already bought in.
Yeah.
You can forget that not everyone thinks the same way, or not everyone knows about what's cool to, why it's cool to work here. So really getting them to kind of think out loud and brainstorm drills into their minds too, so that when they're talking to candidates, they know the people they can pull.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And this brings us on quite nicely to one of the things we said we'd sort of look at a little bit, which is around employee advocacy in this process. Given we've already kind of touched on the fact that, one, it's better to get tech people to talk to tech people rather than recruiters to tech people. How how easy is it to get, and therefore how do you get them? But how easy is it to get tech people involved in this process? How is it easy to get the employees involved? Do they care? Do they? I always find most industries, quite a reluctant journey that people go on to kind of do a bit of the recruitment for the company in a way. It's like not my job kind of thing. How do you get them involved, and how much do you get them involved in that kind of part of the process, using their networks effectively and using them as part of the recruitment process?
So I would say that for me, it's not been that's been the least of our worries. But basically, because we are a startup within Dyson.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dyson's an established company, but the connected technology piece literally started from zero, near enough this time last year. So we have the advantage of being a startup mentality, startup driven, but within the confines, the wrap, if you like, of a very established cash-rich company. The vested interest that the hiring manager has is there for them to see. There's them and there's no team. The work schedule, the projects that are coming down the pipeline cannot be delivered by them, so that they have a vested interest in bringing in the right talent, of course. But it's there. It's very clear, because it's not just another bum on a seat. Yeah. This is about growing from zero, and with a 2-year, 3-year plan in place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any kind of founder or CEO worth their salt knows that talent will make or break their company, and so when I think that mentality is led from the top, whether we see all hands or town halls, I think that's really important. But making it part of people's roles and part of what they're measured on, because recruiting actually is massively time consuming, and you can have all the best intent in the world but not actually be able to contribute referrals or HR time. So I think it has to be part of everyone's role, particularly when you're in smaller sticks.
And I guess that's the thing, you can both of you guys there, you can embed it as part of the culture right from the dot, aren't you, basically? I think it's always a challenge, isn't it, for a lot of very existing companies. And the thing I talk a lot about is about how when companies go through planned growth and they know that they've got a business plan, they've got a projection and all that kind of stuff, but don't have a people strategy to go alongside the business growth strategy. And you have to, without knowing who the people are you've got to going to grow with, and how important that process is, you can't achieve your growth strategy because you're reactive to it rather than proactive to it. So it's if it's embedded right at the start, then it's a massively helpful, isn't it? Right? Yeah, it's good. So look, how left field do we need to go to attract these people? I mean, we all know the regular kind of ways of doing recruitment, and how left field do we need to go? I mean, does sticking jobs in the right places, job ads in the right places, still work? I think Matt Butler always talks about the fact that actually still for List, a lot of the people that he attracts still just come from advertising in the right places at the right time through job boards. What are the routes? Are there some of the more traditional routes that still work at this stage?
I think it's branding is really important, so that when you hit someone up and ask them if they want to come join you, they have heard of you and they have an idea of who you are as an employer. So I think building up a very broad brand as to who you are and what you stand for is a really important starting point. Then I think when it comes to winning individuals over, and particularly that's really hard to attract individuals, then I think the personalization is actually needed, and you need to think about, what does this candidate want? Do we have a good match? And if so, how do we get in front of them, or how do we get them to think of us over everyone else? So I think there is the kind of generic marketing required, but then I think smarter, targeted outreach, or even a campaign for particular demographics, is important after that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Guy? Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'd absolutely echo that. I think, there's still a time and a place for a well-placed ad, as Matt said. I'm a big fan of his, but equally, I think, as Kat said there, there's so much noise, be that on LinkedIn, be that on staff, be that via recruiters. You've almost got to do something. If you've got a big growth piece and you have some money, it doesn't need to be a lot, then I think doing something different to help differentiate yourself, to help you stand out from what is a very large and very samey crowd, it all helps for sure. And that was our challenge, and that was my challenge initially. A lot of people have heard of Dyson, but they wouldn't put the dots together and think, brilliant. App development is big in Dyson. No one knew about what we were doing last September, October time. So we had to do something different to raise awareness. Ultimately, it wasn't even a recruitment exercise per se. It was hey, look, this is the kind of stuff we're doing, and putting ourselves front and center of the minds of these people. So
yeah, on that point then, Guy, give us a little bit of an overview of what you guys have been doing to kind of try and do something different with this, what's quite a challenging area.
So we mashed together ultimately what I guess you would look at if you've heard of the escape rooms idea, and gamified it ultimately, and brought it into the world of connected technology using Dyson products. Ultimately, we ran a 2-day competition for teams, invite only, who could come along, based it in London. So we took the task to where the greatest number of developers are, and set them challenges. So that using latest tech, using products, coding challenges, appealing to their sense of competitiveness within their peers from a coding perspective, and using the sort of the escape rooms idea. And just as it wasn't a hard sell. There was some of my team there, but again, it was staffing it with our team, with our tech guys. And it was again about look at what we're doing, not here's a job. This was look at the kind of stuff that we're doing here and the products we're working on and the tech associated with that, as a soft sell. And as I say, we were I think 8 times over subscribed for the numbers of places that we had, and we now have a pool of people who are interested in future contact, which we can flip to career conversations over a period of time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, brilliant. Interesting stuff. Have you made hires from it yet? Or like you say, is it really top of the funnel, top of the middle funnel?
Yeah, no, we're part of the way through that. So ultimately my brief was to double the size of our connected team, and we've done that as of this month actually. So that was a huge help in terms of converting and growing our team.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Kat, what have you did you go on a very, I know most of the background with what you've done is probably pre-Improbable because it's quite new there. What kind of exploratory journeys have you been on, creative journeys have you been on to attract talent, and what worked basically, most importantly?
Yeah, sure. At a previous company, we thought about campaigns a lot. So one of them, I guess we kind of segmented our demographics or the talent we were going after, a bit like product marketing, kind of treated them as different markets. So one of our more immature, I guess, markets in terms of knowledge of our brand, we were very popular with engineers, but not so much with designers. So we actually did a European tour with a VW camper van, surfboard on the side, and hit up all of the best UX designers across Europe with kind of this promise to have an all-expensive relocation to Sydney. It's been really dialing up the location as kind of differentiating there. Here at Improbable, we're starting a lot of the kind of conferences and events, and kind of thinking about how we can differentiate ourselves out on unis as we kind of get ready to plan over the next couple of months. There's some really fun ideas coming down the line, but probably a little bit premature to share.
Yeah, of course. I can imagine. Yeah. So basically, you both tried to relocate, one to Sydney and one to Malmesbury.
I know where I'd rather be.
Yeah, Malmesbury. Yeah, good pubs in Malmesbury. Yeah.
What I would say as well, and Kat touched on it there, I think the meetups piece is huge as well. Certainly, again, for us in the Southwest, we're not everyone's first location of choice in terms of downtown Malmesbury, but Bristol for us is a key hub as well, and there's a huge and active meetup groups going on all the time. And again, it's not about the recruiters in my team going, it's about the guys in our tech team going, and again, just talking about the type of work they're doing where they can, and again, just engaging people with those sorts of conversations rather than the hard recruitment message. Yeah,
that's definitely the same in London, isn't it, Kat? Oh, something popped in and then just popped out again. No, I was about to ask a question. It's just completely just gone. One thing we touched on earlier, and I'm sure it relates to this as well, so it will come into my head shortly. But we talked earlier about future talent a little bit, and how, given that a lot of the roles we're talking about here are probably quite integral components of some of the future roles that exist for school leavers and beyond. What are you guys doing in relation to trying to consider, or are you doing stuff that relates to teenagers through graduate years to trying to attract more people into, not just into your organizations, but into technology and development and the like as a whole?
So Dyson has the Dyson James Dyson Foundation, which is solely a charitable organization, but solely designed to encourage and inspire the next generation of talent. So, you know, I spend a lot of my days going to schools and talking to year 7s, year 8s, year 9s, and not just me, by the way, but again, taking engineers, taking tech guys to get these kids to participate in activities, challenges. So we'll take some Dyson products, we'll tell them they can cut them up, smash them, whatever, but ultimately invent something new and give them a challenge to do in their design tech lessons, and that tends to go down really, really well. Again, no hard messages, but just trying to get that interest, keep it going as well. More importantly, there's a huge drop off we're finding between the primary school age and then when they go into secondary school in the STEM subjects, particularly amongst the females. So it's really working to try and keep that interest levels high, and that's one of the ways we do it. Yeah,
no, great stuff. Like it. And Kat, anything similar on your side?
Yeah, I mean, attracting kind of talent early on is really important for us. I think it's really where you get your future leaders who you can mold, and of course attract probably a more diverse pool of candidates at that early stage. Unfortunately, after that they tend to drop off. When it comes to that kind of earlier stage, school level, it's actually a really hot topic on our CEO's mind right now. So just on Friday we were discussing what we wanted to do there, and potential big ideas to really get a lot more young people interested in going into STEM subjects and computer science. So nothing to share today, but definitely a hot topic that I'd love to.
No, I think it opens the subject, the fact that I think it's an important part of it, isn't it? Because I think we all know that in schools and career advice they get at that age, it still is kind of quite dated. The kind of advice or directions they get veered by traditional organizations is quite certainly out of date. So I'm all for it. I think there needs to be more organizations that need to tell them some really cool stuff they can do in this area in the future, isn't there? That's for sure. No, brilliant. Any other thoughts on other companies out there who are doing some cool stuff? Have you seen some stuff out there that you thought that is brilliant? I mean, you wish you'd thought of it first. Frankly, is there some cool stuff going on there? Given that everybody's probably looking for a creative route to market with this at the moment.
There's been some interesting ones over the years. I'm trying to think of one recently that stood out.
So I think I can't claim any credit for this, but I was working in the same organization. That's about as far as it goes. The crack the code that TMP did for GCHQ, what would that have been now, 4 or 5 years back, putting out a website and inviting hackers. And it's very pertinent, certainly in the last year or so, inviting hackers to crack the code and and then inviting those who were successful to apply to GCHQ was a brainwave. And I know that the hits they got on that website ran into the millions. It was an incredible piece of work, just focusing on a really, really niche area of tech in terms of cybersecurity. That was a great project. Looking at it from kind of the inside, it was good. It was good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at an event last year where there's a American lady called Jennifer Curie, who I believe, I might be slightly wrong in the story, but she, I think herself, about 15, 16 years old, was arrested by the American government for hacking some sites or whatever, and got herself into trouble because she was, and to their brilliance, instead of sending her to jail or anything like that, they said, right, we want to employ you. We want to employ you to help us be better at building barriers to protection and all that. And now she lives in Manchester. She's over here in the UK and runs an academy that basically a lot of it is dealing with kids who are mucking about with tech and causing trouble actually in hacking sites and hacking systems, and going to those kids and going, right, we're not going to punish you, we want to give you a job, and we want to give you a job working with our clients, which are the companies, saying how do we make sure that we constantly testing our defenses, our cybersecurity and all that kind of stuff. And it was a brilliant, inspiring story about how do you, rather than punish kids who have got this kind of delinquent element to them from a point of view of the way that they were using and abusing their technology skills, but actually using them to a benefit. And it's quite an inspiring story. It was. I thought that was quite cool about how you make the use of hacking being actually quite a naughty thing, but it's making it a useful thing for good as well, basically. So it was, that's probably a similar sort of thing in a way, from a point of view of, you know, trying to find these hidden skills and people that you have probably in talent pools that you had never really considered before. I thought that was super cool. But, so what's the future hold for this kind of then? How do we stay ahead of the game in all this kind of area? I mean, it's given that every company is a technology company now, and they're like, what are you starting to feel as though the tech people in your environment are saying is the next big thing for them? What's drawing them? What do they see the future is, and where are their eyes being diverted at the moment, effectively?
I think it depends on the people you ask or the area.
Yeah.
I mean, the colleagues I have here are all incredibly interested in distributed computing, cloud computing, VR to an extent, AI. But I think for recruiting, we become more and more like marketers. I think we've become a lot more involved with the product that we're selling to. So really influencing the work environment that we have and the quality of the product we're selling. And really thinking more like marketers and how to get that to our target audience.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually, based on what we were talking about earlier. I was quite surprised that the tech people didn't really have an interest in the product at where I'm doing the contract at the moment. I think that's great, because that's part of it, right? Isn't it? I mean, it's not just the tech bit, it's the net result is great. Guy, what are your thoughts on that?
So I think I absolutely agree. I think for us, specifically at Dyson, our future is around robotics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and all the tech that goes with that. So quite a large job, but lots to be done there. But it's exciting, and I think whilst there's lots of stories around robots taking our jobs, that will also, and we're starting to see it now. It's creating new jobs, new skills, new areas, which frankly, the talent pools almost don't exist. So we're looking at those sorts of challenges coming our way really thick and fast. Not just in the UK, but globally, whether that's in the US or Southeast Asia as well.
Yes, no, indeed. Oh, another quick thing. The thing that I was going to ask earlier, and I think because it's quite pertinent in the way that we attract talent and the kind of people that a lot of talk out there is about the lifespan of an employee these days being significantly shorter than it ever was, and particularly in the area of tech, and where there's lots of new things going around left, right, and centre, pulling them from pillar to post. How do you treat that? I mean, do you a lot of people will say that, you should be marketing the job these days rather than any kind of career or anything like that. What is it that is that an impacting thing on your organizations at the moment, or the way that tech people talk? I know flexible working was mentioned earlier as one of those kind of changing kind of things that naturally is happening at the moment. But what about the fact that actually people may not want to be in that job for their career anymore, particularly, and maybe stepping stoning through their career? Does that play a part in the way that we attract these kind of people?
I think for us, there's the whole gig economy. I think that's, the nice phrase that people have come up with, but it's, it's real. The way that we've positioned that is very much, it's still a career conversation, but actually your career will go, not necessarily from A to B. It will go, A, D, Z, and then back to C again. There's no linear way, but what that does mean is that you will get exposure to, hugely different areas of our business. Often at the bleeding edge of what is possible, and in fact what is not possible, because it's not been invented yet. So it's trying to almost work on a project basis, I guess. For 6 months you'll be doing this, and then actually for after that point you could be doing this or you could be doing that, and the options will grow, particularly again in a startup environment, where options multiply out as the business grows.
Yeah, no, absolutely makes sense. Kat, similar sort of thing there in effect, the way you're looking at it, or do you?
Yeah. I think look, it's really important for the employer to provide a really rich opportunity for talent, and if they can't, then that they should be okay with them leaving, but also learn something from everyone who leaves.
Yeah.
An old boss of mine had I guess a practice whereby anyone who left the company, left his team, we'd ask them to send them their business card.
Yeah.
And then he would have a wall, and it was basically his kind of wall of fame.
Alumni.
Yeah. Person on my team went on to do this really cool thing, and so it was celebrated, at the right time. And I think employers have tried to keep employees in jobs for too long, where it's where they are at the end of their life cycle is just not a win for the employee or the employer.
No, it is. I think this is the discussion, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people feel as talking like they feel they get the best out of people within that 18-month period we're talking about, and then people maybe do drop off if there is no opportunity to go into other kind of zones like you refer to, Guy. I mean, that's the challenge now. But I think somebody was explaining to me recently about they kind of they look at it as when they employ somebody, it doesn't mean they fall off the talent pipeline. Technically, it doesn't mean we don't show any interest in them as an organization, but so they always look at it and think, right, we employ somebody, we keep them in that pool of the kind of content we put into the pipeline and all that kind of stuff, because they're still part of our organization. They still would find that content interesting. We keep them, and then they may leave one day, but they'll continue to be somebody we'd love to get back in the future, so that like a job is not for life anymore type of thing, and embracing that kind of. And I thought that was interesting that they still regarded people that they hired, they never stopped kind of gently selling to them or marketing to them in a way, or keeping the content going that's interesting and all that kind of stuff to them. It's kind of looping them in. And I thought that was quite intriguing, because they considered it that actually we want to be able to communicate with these people for 10, 15 years, but we just accept that we're not going to be employing them for all of those 10, 15 years, because it just doesn't work like that anymore. And it's just so I think there's a lot of differences, isn't there? A lot of people, some people look for attention, other companies look for optimum peak performance at a given time, don't they? And it's but I wondered if this was a subject area that's kind of happening in tech quite a bit at the moment, given all the different kind of cool stuff they can go by going from one place to the next effectively, and what value that kind of brings. But
keeps us all in jobs, eh?
What's that?
The movement keeps us all in jobs.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, here we are as recruitment people. Yeah, everybody keep moving. keep us alive. Okay, cool. I don't think there's any other questions on the right-hand side other than some talk about pizza, so I don't think I need to cover anything there. I think Jacob talked about use of other kind of media to attract talent. I mean, we were talking about content a little bit earlier. I mean, one very, very, very quick one before we kind of finish up. Video content is increasingly becoming the cornerstone of all our attraction documentation. Day in life was mentioned earlier, that kind of stuff. My experience at the moment is the tech people in the organization I'm doing some work with at the moment do not want to be anywhere near a camera or a video for all their lives. They do not want to be on camera. They don't want to tell their story, not in that way. Agreed? Or do you find that there are people in the organization who absolutely love being part of video content, and if you use it for that matter?
Yeah, I love video content. I think it's just a really great way to have, I guess, to hear from your employees, straight their mouth, but also something that you can use over and over on every platform. Have subtitles, have it translated into whatever language you want. I've actually found that with the right casting, you can get some incredible people. But I think you do need to cast, and you can't just expect that anyone that on camera. So yeah, I'm a fan, and I've had a lot of luck getting great people on camera. Yeah, no, good. Yeah.
I'm glad there are some people who do. Guy, the same?
Yeah, no, exactly the same. I think, choose wisely, but there are people absolutely within our organisation who would stick their hands up and do that at a moment's notice, and would be very good and are very good at it. But in the main, yes, if you stick a camera in front of an iOS or Android developer without prior warning, then you're going to get very short shrift and be all the poorer for it. So yeah, you choose wisely, but absolutely a big fan, and there's definitely a place for it within tech, and across the board clearly.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, it's 4:45. It's time. Look, thanks, guys. I mean, that was absolutely brilliant. I really appreciate your insights. Hope folks who are watching also found it fascinating as well. So I really appreciate your time. Next week, I have Sam Ramsey on from Balfour Beatty and ex-House of Fraser, and Stuart Jones from InSource Talent, talking about building direct sourcing channel, or direct sourcing model, I should say. So that's what's on next week. Thanks again to you guys, and good luck to Kat, who's getting married next week in Italy. Congratulations to that. Have a great time. We want not sick. Don't want to hear too much afterwards about how good Italy was and all that kind of stuff. You can leave that. But really, thanks for your time, everybody, and thanks for joining on the right side, everybody. And take care. Have a good week. Thanks all.
Cool. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Cheers.